Recorded. Yes. Okay. So we're gonna finish up hopefully chapter 5 and move on to chapter 6, and we'll see. We got like 30 slides for the chapter 6, so we're gonna maybe it works. We'll figure out I will figure out sooner than later how much the midterm 2 will cover, and I'm writing midterm 2 as as of now. So try to make it lengthwise. It's gonna be about the same. So hopefully the time shouldn't be an issue. I didn't see that time being a major factor last time. Now, one thing that I'm going to change is I actually note at the top of the study guide in yellow. I don't know if you found that, but basically I'll try to. Last time I had 3 big short answers. Instead, next time I try to have 5 or 6 smaller short answers across different topics, so that when you go kind of like we have those like drawing a blank kind of moment. When you have that on one topic, hopefully that wouldn't affect so much of your points. Make sense? So that if you go like, ooh, no, I forgot this, but it would be like 2 or 3 points rather than 6 points. Okay, sounds good? All right. So chapter 5, leisure needs. Now it's not working. Just kidding. All right. So this is where we left off. We were discussing in a 304, group. We're talking about there's some study, 2 similar study found quite a different things in terms of how much of perceived freedom people were feeling between the 2 studies. And then I was asking for any logical, educated guess about why we observed that difference. And because, well, sometimes we have to do that kind of things in our line of work. I just wanted to, you know what, Natalia, sorry. I should have asked you. You sent me an email. I thought that was a really good one. Do you mind sharing that? No. Okay, so I had we talked about 2 or so last class, right? We shared the 2. The one about, I think it was a cultural difference. The other one was about the student versus corporate employee, probably. And Natalia had an idea about this one. So I thought I would share so that you are more prepared for the exam if I ask this question.
Okay,
sure.
Okay, so my thought was the measurement scale in both the studies. So the earlier study was measuring on a binary scale, so just a yes or a no, you indicate yes, it was leisure or no, it was leisure. While the more current study, Shin study from 2018, measured on a continuum scale from 0 to 10. And so you could get a little bit more of a nuanced response. So like a 6 out of 10, a 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10. They all mean something slightly different. But in the earlier study, those people probably would have just picked yes, even though their level of perceived freedom is only moderate. So the earlier study probably, like Shin actually said, it inflated the number of people who would have said yes, they were experiencing perceived freedom. All right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you wrote to me. Does that make sense? Could you hear that from over there? We good? So basically, what Natalia proposed was that based on a scale, like the earlier Dr. C's study was yes or no, free or not free, right? Our study was 0 to 10. To what degree people feel freedom? And then we talked about how actually research shows that perception of freedom exists on a continuum, right? Somewhere, whatever the 0 to 10, whatever. And we're always like somewhere typically in the middle. Now, if the people were around like 5 out of 10 or 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10, those people would have chosen yes with the yes or no binary question, right? And for leisure, that could happen a lot of time. So you're not quite 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 free, but it's somewhere very high. And those will accumulate and accounts really like make it look so free because it's just yes or no. But then in reality, you're like, yeah, on average, you're like a 5, 6, 7, which makes sense. So it's very important. So when it comes to if you have to do some evaluation in your future line of work, for example, right? Your energy level, whatever you're measuring, critical context, community recreation, it's important to think about, hey, do I want to ask, hey, Noah, hey, Isaiah, yes or no question, or more of continuum type of question, survey question. It's very important how you measure it. And then the chapter asks the other important question related to perceived freedom. It's perceived freedom an important dimension of our everyday experience. Now, to answer that question, if you read the chapter, you saw this question. Our ESM experience sampling study, method study, we examined if perceived freedom predicted what we call in Japan, ikigai, or life worth living. So basically, our assumption here is that if perceived freedom relates to more perceived freedom, more ikigai, as in the more quote unquote worthwhile you feel your life is, day-to-day life is, then we can answer probably yes to this question. Yes, it is an important dimension of our everyday experience. And then this is just a little part of the statistical results findings we had. So we use some individual level, because it's experience sampling method, okay? So each person provided dozens of surveys, right? So we have individual level factors, like for example, gender identity, sex, basically that kind of thing, as well as age. Over a week period, they don't change. So that's the individual level factor. Well, unless you have a birthday in that week, then happy birthday, but still we don't change. Anyway, but also experience level. So each time when you got dinged on our smartphone and do the short survey, we measure both perception of ikigai, life worth living, as well as these things. Over the past 1 hour, were you doing leisure activity or not? To what degree were you feeling perceived freedom? And to what degree you were feeling next chapter's topic, motivation, intrinsic motivation specifically. What we found was that here, perceived freedom, it's statistically significant. So yes, the freer we feel day to day, the more worthwhile we feel our lives are. That's good. Probably we can say yes to this question because of this. But then if you actually compare the number here, perceived freedom and intrinsic motivation, you see that actually the number are bigger than twice here compared to here, right? 0.06 versus 0.16. So actually intrinsic, and they're on the same scale. So intrinsic motivation is much more important in terms of predicting ikigai. So yes, perceived freedom seems to be our important factor, but it's not the most important factor. It's one of the important factors. And that's one thing that wasn't, that chapter didn't answer because they didn't have the data. And we get to a very interesting topic. We talked about perceived freedom, which was related to autonomy. It's very characteristics of leisure. Another thing related to that autonomy is control, the idea of control. Do you know anybody who characterizes themselves as, I'm a bit of a control freak? Self-diagnosed control freak? Anybody? I am. You can see, right? What we're talking about here is this, people's perception, people's sense. Okay, so it's quite subjective that they are causal agent. They're the origins of their behavior. They are the boss in their life. They have the control over what's happening in their life to an extent. Okay, whether they actually are or not is another question, but psychologically, they have that perception. Now, the chapter had a quite interesting page and review of different studies, related study. Need for control is so fundamental. It's in here from our childhood. Anybody remember the chapter talked about lottery study? Lottery ticket study? Anybody remember? What do you remember, Teresa? Yeah, there you go. Go ahead.
It would be less likely to give someone a lottery ticket if they had actually picked that ticket number versus if they just got one.
Yeah, they were less likely, you said, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you get that? So the experiment was like this. It's been a while since I read it because at the end of the semester. So I had two groups of students like you guys, right? I separated them here. So both groups will get one ticket of lottery, right? It's attached to you're going to win something, maybe, $50 or PlayStation 5, whatever. I want a PlayStation 5. Anyway, you guys, I will give one ticket to you and that's your ticket, okay? You, on the other hand, will get a choice. Like each of you will, let's say, see 5 tickets and you get to choose one out of it. And then later, before I will share the results, I'll come back to you as a researcher. Hey, I need that ticket back. I will buy you back like with the $5, let's say, or something like that, right? You who didn't have a control over which tickets to choose, you'd be like, yeah, sure. Like I get the $5, just it sounds like a good deal. Hey, most of you. Here, many people were like, no, this is the ticket I chose. Like I'm gonna win with this. I really carefully chose because that's what matters. It doesn't, right? It's a lottery. It doesn't matter the fact that you chose something. It's not like you have this, somehow control and manipulate and influence the odds of winning because you chose it. But these research over and over shows that we have this delusional idea that we can be luckier by choosing. We are better, we are higher performing than we are, so on and so forth. Siri. Chuck-a-bug?
So you basically like buy pucks or whatever, and then
At the halftime.
yeah, and then they have numbers, and then whoever gets closest, that number gets the 50-50.
Do you guys know what Siri is talking about? The halftime event with the puck and you buy it and just throw it? Yeah, okay.
People are very superstitious with that because they'll look for their like twos, and like they'll be like looking through every puck we have for like a specific number that they want because that will increase their chances.
So they're very picky apparently. Thank you. That's interesting example. It's relevant that they think that certain number would give them somehow a better control over the event. No, it's about the throw, and it's about you can't control how it lands, the angle, but it's really pretty much to me around them. I don't know, maybe not, because I never got those things. Anyway, so see, we are delusional a little bit about control. We do. Now, speaking of control, what's interesting is that there are actually different types of control, different ways we can feel control. But typically, when we say control, this is what we mean. The top one, primary control, which is about us trying to influence the events happening in a life, the activity, situation, right? That's what we mean typically by control. But there are different kinds, and Weiss and colleagues, this has been like 40 years, more than 40 years actually. They found that there's another way of trying to feel control in life, which is called secondary control. And there are two subtypes. One of them is called adjustment, that we adjust ourselves, we change ourselves to better fit with the situation, whether the activity, the situation, whatever the environments demand you, so that you regain that control over the situation. The situation is tough, like activity is challenging than you thought, you keep up, so you get there, rather than making the activity easier, for example. Make sense? Making activity easier would be the primary side, because you're not changing yourself, you're changing something external to you. That's primary. Secondary adjustment, you're changing yourself one way or another, whether how you feel, what do you do, so on and so forth. The last one, you change nothing, neither you nor the situation, environment, but you just accept. So Zen, right? You just let it go. The Elsa called it, just let it go and you'll be good. And you may feel that, Shane, how is that let it go? Well, maybe Elsa was. She's like strong kind of woman kind of image, I guess. But anyway, how is that accepting the situation is control? It sounds like the opposite, right? It sounds like a giving up a control. Is it? In some ideas, for example, there's a related idea like we talked about briefly in chapter 4, mindfulness. In a mindfulness framework, accepting without judging is very, very important. Because when things happen to you, whether it's a positive or negative, the tricky thing is that you started to judge. Oh, this is great because now you're better than this, or you're whatever. Like, oh, what does this mean to my future, so on and so forth. That that lingering thoughts and emotions really distract you, right? It really captivates you, and you get stuck emotionally and thinking wise. So in the mindfulness, we try to not do that. We try to live here and now, which is unfolding, always ongoing moments. So you shouldn't really focus on what happened. Like, yeah, you happened, it was good, it was not good, but let it go, moving on, accepting. And mindfulness leads to Zen philosophy, obviously, originally. And in Zen, this is actually the ultimate control, accepting, because that way you have control over your inner peace, right? You're not letting other things, including your thoughts and everything, affecting you. So you would imagine probably there's actually cultural difference as to who tends to prefer what kind of control. Because I would imagine when your idea of control was more like this one. But this mindfulness and Zen suggests that actually people from certain different cultural backgrounds may prefer this or different ones. Anyway, that's actually the case. Ito and Walker, they conducted a cross-cultural study between Japanese and Canadian students. And one of their findings was that actually Japanese students felt more adjustment. They actually like to feel the adjustment during their leisure than non-leisure. So they were willing to basically adjust themselves, like keep up more when they're exercising or something like that, compared to Canadian people. Canadian students preferred and actually exerted primary control, the influencing the environment and the situation. Beth Moring is not leisure scholar. She's actually a cross-cultural psychologist. And she studied this interesting phenomenon. Aerobics, do you know aerobics? Do you know what the aerobics is? 1980s, there's, you wear the whole bodysuits kind of thing with the like loose socks and everything, and just like, hairbands and colorful and aerobic activity, dance kind of activity. Anyway, so compare the Japanese and American aerobic participants. It's like a Zumba, 1980 version of Zumba. I think that's the best way to put it. What they found was the American tried to influence their moves. Yeah, there's an instructor, right? And then these are the participants. So they have to follow the instructor, whatever the dance that they have to do, move they have to do. When the instructor does too difficult move, these American people tended to basically simplify it. They make easy version of that, just on the spot, and just like, yeah, I'm not going to do like, to push up or whatever. I'm going to just do knee down and just the easy version of it. Something like that. Versus Japanese will try harder as much as possible so that they can keep up. So that's the type of adjustment. They try to change themselves. Makes sense. Both are actually ways to try to feel control in your life. Different ways, maybe different culture. We're going to talk more about culture in chapter 9. But like here's a hypothetical situation. Let's say you're 21st century. So we're not talking about aerobics, but Zumba classes, which happens actually at the U of A, CCR, campus and community recreation. We have a Zumba, which is fun. You should do. I did it once, actually. I didn't actually pay for it. It was happening in a pavilion, the Battledome. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to just stand behind them and just try to do it with them. It was so fun. But it was 99.9% female. So I felt very self-conscious about it. Anyway, and the fact that I didn't pay for it, and that's bad. Anyway, but Zumba, okay, you're managing Zumba program. Well, you realize quickly many of the participants are actually maybe international students from culture where secondary control, like adjustment, is preferred. So what could we do potentially in terms of programming, what the program looks like over time, assuming it's semester long? What can we do with the instructor? Can we train them in a certain way? Anything related to like equipment facility to ensure that satisfying experiences for everybody. Let's think 1 minute and I will hear your ideas. Because somebody got like some experiences maybe, so like quick on that, that's great. Somebody have to think about it. There are some people who like to adjust, keep up. They don't change easily. So what does that, and they're going to have a different skill level. They're not going to be professional Zumba dancers from the very get-go. So what does that mean? And probably there are a lot of things we already do that actually help those people. I could ask this question. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think?
right off the bat, maybe increasing the difficulty.
Hmm?
But don't
Decreasing difficulty,
increase-
increasing difficulty.
don't make
Okay.
it too challenging,
Okay.
where it's like beginner to then mid-high,
Okay.
so then they still feel the sense of adjustment throughout the Zumba class without feeling too overwhelmed.
Oh,
But we'll see.
but you have, let's say Zumba happens like a 10, 20, 30, 40 people together, right? So there's gonna be mix of the skill level. So probably you can say like a beginner or Zumba class. Okay, yeah,
Maybe
but
Zumba for adjustment, maybe provide different like sets of equipment, like a step up and then some weights.
okay. Because
Because with that, they're gonna have to adjust their movements through the different.
so if they feel like something is too easy, they can increase their intensity by using those equipment.
No, the instructor is gonna be the movements with the different equipment.
Okay, so there is more adjustability in it.
Yeah, variations, then they're
Hmm.
constantly adjusting.
Okay. So what do you think? Good idea? Yes. Go on.
Say, oh, we can't do it like this way, that's like.
Heard that? So there's like even like, thank you. It's exactly, and that's what we do already, right? Typical instructor shows, and typically we have sometimes multiple instructors. If you're like confident, you're good Zumba dancer, whatever, then you follow me. I'm the more advanced, right? And then the other person goes like, hey, if you're more of a novice, just follow me. I'm gonna do the novice type of things so that they can adjust. They know how to adjust. Great ideas. That's what we do. But that's important in terms of for them to be able to feel the control different ways. Because people from different cultures, they may not actually do that adjustment themselves. I mean, you know, like a primary control, they don't change the exercise themselves. Anything else? Yes.
All I was gonna say is, since I work the rec center, that's the tradition is like, you can't do this, do this. But speaking from experience, like if people see the instructor doing one thing, they're gonna wanna adjust themselves and try it. So starting from the modified level
Mm.
and seeing and like as an instructor, it requires more work, but gauging how the class reacts to it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, all right, how did that feel? Who thought it was easy? And then if everyone puts their hand up, you can step it up. If nobody thought it was easy.
Yeah.
It's just like, and only a few people did, you can go up to them individually and say, hey, this is what you can do also.
That's important. And it kind of nicely, you know, expand on that earlier idea. Did you hear it? And that's me too. When there are easy version and not easy version, what I do, I never do easy version, especially when I do workout something with my wife. I can't do easy version. She's the one that she's doing that, right? Maybe sometimes, right? I can't be the guy who is doing the easy version with my, it's just like, you know, stupid masculinity stuff kicks in, right? No, it is. It is dumb. Like I should really listen to my body, right? But then we can do the polling and just like do a few sessions so that we know we gauge where we are. So, okay, there's a difficult and it's easy. Do we need to actually go down so that easy and more easy, or you know, difficult and more difficult? Well, where are we? So gauging that and adjusting as we go in the session or over different across sessions may be very important. Siri.
With that as well, that's like the modified,
Mm.
they can't see that, and like, if you do an activity, if I just say, I'm like, we're gonna do a pirouette, and you're like, I have no idea what that is, you're like, well, you can't do that, we're gonna do this other spin, you're like, but I don't know what that looks like either.
Yeah.
So, if you start at that base level, and you say, if you can go harder, you can do this, they generally, if they've been doing it for a while, they know how to modify it a bit better than someone who can do that activity. So just saying do this easier is harder for someone who's new to that activity.
Okay.
If you just start at that base level and say,
So you're saying that we should start easier. We all start easier and we kind of scaffold up.
yeah, and if you're aware that you're
Okay, especially if there are quite a bit of novice people, then we should just build up. And whenever they feel like, oh, I can't go up to the next level, they can stay just at the level they're comfortable or they're feel good. Good, makes sense, makes sense. Once I was invited to do a K-pop dance class as a part of like international student program programming here. And I was obviously, hey, Shin, I know you profess, it doesn't matter, you just do K-pop with it. It was just way difficult. So obviously I have no K-pop background. I don't know if it's obvious, but that was very difficult. And there's no easy version. So we just kept going. But it was fun. Anyway. And then chapter keep talking about several concepts related to freedom and control and leisure. And this gets really interesting. One of the concepts they introduced is called psychological reactance. And it's very easy. You have seen it, I guarantee you. Psychological reactance is when a threat or loss of freedom, so your options get reduced, and that generates a state of motivational arousal. What the heck is that motivational arousal? Basically, when the specific type of freedom is taken away or reduced for you, we evaluate that option, that freedom more favorably. We think that was important. Darn it, you took it away from me, right? And then you try to regain it. Have you met 2-year-old baby with the toy? Have you tried to take out that toy from that baby? Have you? Oh, no. Why no? Because baby is gonna, if you take out that toy from that baby, what's gonna happen? And first of all, having a baby picture in our lecture slides is great. Second, if you try to, so tell me, some of you are already auntie and niece, and some of you are parents. If you try to take out this one, what's gonna happen? He's gonna cry so bad, thank you. Until you actually give it back, right? So that's in a way is the most arguably one of the most quote unquote primitive, simplistic way of psychological reactance. Why did you take that freedom off of me? I love that toy. Now, that concept, and I'm gonna get back to the example of it in today's adult version of example, but that concept, psychological reactance, goes with the theory of substitutability. So as in the psychological reactance is a problem, right? Sometimes we have baby moments that I want to get that back. Substitutability is kind of like a solution to it. The wider our repertoire of leisure skills, right? We're knowledgeable, we have experience in different leisure activities, then the better we can adjust and we can deal with threat to or loss of our leisure freedom. As in, if you have a 10 leisure activity going on, or maybe not doing it at the same time, but you can do it if you want to, arts, sports, cultural activity, movie, cooking, this and that. If we take out one thing, like if injury happened to you, so you can't do that sports that you love, you can still enjoy yourself. You don't have to feel that, oh my God, I gotta play the hockey, man. You don't have to be that person. You can just, you know what? I'm gonna explore arts for the next couple months. I'm gonna be fine, Versus if you're just a hockey, that 2 weeks or let's say 6 weeks of not being able to play a hockey will really impact your life as well as well-being, right? According to substitutability. Research supports this. For example, Kokolas and colleagues they studied skiers, and a more specialized skier who are particular about skiing, the type of ski, expensive skis, the wax, and they go to a certain area, at a certain route, certain level. More specialized skiers were less likely to change their activity. So they stick to ski no matter what, despite the poor snow condition. So let's say the snow conditions are horrible in sunshine. I was talking to somebody else about the sunshine the other day. But who was it? Oh, Eric. He's not here today. Anyway, apparently it's beautiful, but let's say it's horrible this year, right? But you still try to go to sunset. You still try to ski, no matter what. Doesn't matter. In Alberta, let's say horrible ski condition. Still try to ski because that's what you do. And your repertoire is typically very narrow, but because you're specialized. However, they're likely to change the place. So if if the sunshine doesn't work, if the Alberta doesn't work, let's say, I don't know, you go to maybe US, you go to Utah and in Salt Lake City, maybe you go ski there, or you go to Europe and do ski, but you gotta ski. So that's who they are. That's the basically luck of substitutability, luck of repertoire. So the psychological reactance is kicking in. Now, do you think that affected us during the COVID? Because COVID happened and all of us experienced limitation to our leisure freedom, didn't it? I wanted to hang out with my friends more often. I wanted to talk to my friends in this distance because that's the best distance. No, I hate that actually. I really, I rather not to touch any, hug or anything or just talk. So that was great. But anyway, social distancing, there's a other public health issues, regulations, travel ban, like you cannot travel like outside the country and so on and so forth, right? So our leisure freedom was challenged. When that happened, did anybody any friends, a family, or maybe people in general, did they exhibit psychological reactance symptoms like gotta socialize, it doesn't matter what the government says? Psychologically, this makes sense. This actually makes sense. We all have an inner baby who wants the toy bag, seriously. And if so, now here we can use actually substitutability to address and be prepared and make your community member prepared for the next pandemic, God forbid. Hopefully we don't have that. But if we do, how we can use substitutability to guide, to educate or prepare next generation, or well, the older people are going to be, gone by hopefully by the next pandemic, but next generation so that they don't feel that. They feel less of that psychological reactance. Make sense? They feel like, like I gotta talk to my friend in this distance because that's what I want to do. Hopefully they don't feel that way much. Make sense? Because that's gonna be good for them. That's gonna be good for probably society. But so what's your idea? A, did you feel any signs of psychological reactance during pandemic? Yourself, your friends, society in general, think about that. B, how can we potentially use substitutability to help today's children, for example, become more prepared for next pandemic so that they don't get a lot of psychological reactance? 2 minutes? That's a nice necklace. So, what kind of psychological reactance? Okay. Can I ask you to talk this time? I don't mind if you talk about something different, like, hey, are you prepared? Are you confident with the next class, next exam? Are you okay? Just you talk to somebody. You talk to somebody. Alexia, you can talk to Jordan, maybe. Hey, Jordan. Alexia, did you say hi? Okay, so.
China have a very severe isolation quarantine,
Yeah, right.
almost like residents all
Yeah. But were there any like people sneaking in, like people are just doing stuff? What did you do?
Yeah.
That's funny. Okay, that's funny because when that was happening, I was talking to my parents. Well, not talking, but I was hearing from my wife, my family-in-law in China. So they're saying, you know what, we're not supposed to do this, but my mother-in-law, I'm gonna go play mahjong. Mahjong was restricted because it's a closed, right? So it's like you can't do that. No, I'm gonna just do like there's a little secret place I can do just that. So I'm gonna go off my play mahjong. That happens because when your freedom is taken away, you really want to get that. You got to be able to get that McDonald's, McChicken, whatever, nuggets. I know. Oh, your mom, because your mom is like, don't do that. Okay. So what can we do in terms of substitutability? So how can we help people's leisure repertoire wider? Try not to think about McDonald's. Okay. Or maybe we can. There's so many YouTube people saying that here's how to make the closest thing to the McDonald's nuggets. Oh, yeah, right, true, okay, fair enough. Yeah. Yeah, physical activity, mahjong example, whatever. How can we help them? How can we help them to have that wider repertoire? So they're not like, oh, so you have to do one other new activity. So you do this one that you want to do. Oh, online. Oh, yeah, online is always a possibility. True. Okay. How was LA? It was good? Okay. All right. So did we observe any psychological reactance? I mean, I did. No? Your inner baby didn't just come out and just say, like, I gotta do this? Any example? Anything from anybody who haven't spoken? Just, we love you guys. I know I love you guys, but anybody? Yes, Joshua. Go eating out at the restaurant? Yeah.
At a greater state of motivational arousal to do them.
Yeah. Typically, you're like, you know what? Do I want to hang out Friday night? I don't know. I'm busy watching
always
Netflix, but when the band kicks in, like, I gotta go.
Yeah.
I gotta figure out the restaurant that I can go.
Yeah.
Another example I saw was the stairs. In a river valley, there are people go up and down. Well, which it happens. There are a lot of people typically. But then during the pandemic, did you realize there's actually sign says you cannot actually do this? Please do not do that because there's a lot of you basically spit the airs and you're close by. Please don't do that. So many people are doing stairs still. Like they're like, it's outdoor, it's fine. Like maybe, but I mean, do you have to do it? Like I hate stairs, so maybe bias. Anyway, any other psychological reactance? You gotta do this. You gotta travel. You gotta go somewhere else. No, didn't feel that way. You good? Okay, Siri. You got a what? Trip. Dance training in LA.
Like,
That program is just gone.
it was actually like a series of days where I went, no, we'll still go, but like, if you don't want to
Yeah.
go, you can leave. And then it was like, no, probably not. I didn't know.
And then you're like, I gotta go. You really wanted to go. Okay, so how can we use theory of substitutability to help people to better prepare for another pandemic? So basically, we want help people to develop a wider repertoire of leisure. Are we doing this? Or are we allowing people to just be like hockey? I mean, hockey is a great sport. I'm just using example, but hockey kind of people. Or are we creating, helping people to be like, you get the hockey, you get the arts, you get their, media, you get this, you get that, those well-rounded in terms of leisure type of people. I'll go Teresa.
I know in sociology or something about a lot about specialization in sports.
Specialization of youth sports, great concept relates to this. You know what I'm talking about, right? 3-year-old, you're Tiger Woods on a golf course, basically. It's a little thing, yeah, okay.
So basically, and even like I run some of the rec youth programming. Parents like pushing to have it like year-round hockey and things like that. Where
Yeah.
Specialize in one sport.
Yeah.
Really possible.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, like some parents are pushing.
Yeah, some people, some families do that, pushing one sport. But I wanted to go to Maddie because, yes, Maddie.
We could like make it more open for people and new activities, stuff like that. If within their main sport, they do like, if they have like a dry line, they
Mhm.
play practice games,
Mhm.
soccer, stuff like that. But then
Mhm.
it's been, like, different that other sports,
Mhm.
like, a specific sport.
Right. Right.
Or like professional basketball, to also use like soccer. to get
There you go. Yeah, I know a golfer who is great with soccer player who is great with the golf, and then just like, dude, can you just like, I'm not even good at the one game. But anyway, great example, great point, Maddie, that we have to actually, the opposite of what Teresa was saying, we want to create a program so that actually children will be exposed to different kind of activities. And then Maddie's example was different kind of basically physical activity, outdoor activity, sports, and so on and so forth, right? Different talents and whatnot, which is great. But also, maybe we need that sort of like a leisure education type of program where kids are not just active sports, physical activity exposed, but also they get the arts, some of the arts going on. They have this reading, maybe they have this cultural activity, that all that thing, so that you have this well-rounded leisure life, which will probably make people in a way that, yes, I don't have to talk to a buddy in this situation when the dangerous virus is going around, type of thing. So that's a very public health actual issue. Learned helplessness is another issue, factor, phenomena connected to control. That's the definition. Basically, people become helpless. People will try not to even help themselves when they're exposed to a series of uncontrollable events. Their control is taken out. Martin Seligman, actually, I may have mentioned this once, actually, they conducted a series of experiments, which is actually horrible. Basically had the mouse in a cage and there's a food. And when mouse tried to go get close to the food, they got electrocuted every time. And they do that so many times. Once that then it was unavoidable. And then they change this cage in such a way that there's obvious ways to actually avoid electrocution. What's going to happen? Mice has developed this helplessness so much that they don't even care. They get just electrocuted, even though it's so obvious way to actually go around that. They just electrocuted all the time. What Martin Seligman found, actually, he's one of the famous actually social psychologists of all 20th century too. He observed the same thing with the many military veterans. It was actually military research as well. People who went through uncontrollable events in a war zone, or the even worse, tortures. They were captured and tortured. Very, very uncontrollable situation, horrible experience. And they actually give up on life. So many other domains, even after they came home in a safer place, not war zone, but they already give up on the life. They're not going to even try to better their life, for example. So we actually start to attribute uncontrollable events to ourselves and reduce our self-esteem, which is bad for our well-being. This also happened with the people with the major disabling condition as well. That they just see so many barriers and discriminations and so many issues everywhere, so that they started to internalize it. And those who survive major trauma as well. Now, why does that matter to leisure? Well, this guy is very funny. Seppo Isohola, psychologist of leisure. He thought that actually, same thing, not like war, but happens to a degree in even Little League Baseball. When players experience repeated failures, they started to attribute their failures like someone like this. I was one of those kids, very awkward and clumsy, failures to themselves, and they will stop basically playing that game. They stop enjoying. So you don't want to have that. And that's why we have these strategies developed. And you have seen this strategy already, probably, if you ever play any sports. We de-emphasize win, we stress skill development. You're getting better, and that's what it matters. Or fun. You can still have fun without winning. We can have a preseason practices so that everybody gets better, right? And a player draft so that the teams are equal, more balanced, rather than one team is so good versus like the other team isn't good. Then it could lead to helplessness. Focus on a personal success, good plays, not team wins and lose. And then finally, put the failures into perspective that it's not, it could be good for you. You can learn lessons from it, and that's what it matters. Okay, so that's where we stop. And we're going to move into chapter 6 next class. And that means probably this weekend, I will figure out how much the midterm 2 cover. And then sample file will be coming soon. So I'll let you know. but thank you. Good luck with the exam. Ah, it's exam. Oh, I went long. Sorry.